Alright, today we're going to look at two different runs involving two completely different units, and the only thing that connects them is that they are two of the most requested units I get in the comments. So the first one we're going to look at is Hyena. Now Hyena is one of the least played units in the game. You almost never encounter a Hyena team in customs, and yet it seems to be pretty popular. Anytime there's some kind of build that you've created using pets that reduce attack or health, there will always be comments suggesting doing the same thing with Hyena. And the reason you don't see very many Hyena videos is because, well, Hyena just isn't very good. Also, I guess, there are some pretty obvious issues with it compared to some of the other tier 5s. And one of them is the fact that its stat swapping ability, while cool and unique, is oftentimes completely irrelevant. And the reason for that is that there are so many ways for opposing teams to scale both their health and attack at the same time. And so there are very few opponents where you're going to face with very high health and low attack, in which case you can swap their stats over and it would be a disaster for them. Or the opposite, where they have very high attack and low health. Now, it's not completely out of the question, but most of the time, the majority of opponents that are relying on their stats are going to have mostly uniform stats across the board. So the consequence of that is that most of the time when you want to try and play a Hyena team, you have to incorporate one of the stat reduction methods yourself. So here we're going to take skunk. Now, originally the plan for this pack was to use Kraken. And I had a ton of attempts at it, and I'll show a clip or two at the end of this run from some of those games. Actually here, I don't know why I've got the parrot copying the Thunderbird. It should be copying the Rockhopper, I think. I'm not sure we really need that little extra bit of mana. But anyway, skunk is one of those units that you've, all of the videos that have involved Hyena I've seen in the past, almost all of them will involve skunk in some way. Or maybe one of the other health reduction pets. I guess Cali Greyhound isn't particularly good for it because it's on faint. And are there any others that I'm missing? There was a brief period where Kraken was on faint as well, so you would have had to use Anubis to make it work with Hyena. But yeah, in general, it's just a difficult pet to use. But that can also make it pretty rewarding at times. And unfortunately here, because it's tier 5, it can also sometimes be a problem where you just cannot get the Hyena onto the team quick enough. So we're on 12, turn 12, 7 trophies. We finally get the Hyena. There's also the churros there, which I should have frozen. Maybe I don't need it in this game, I can't remember. Yeah, sometimes it can be good to swap their stats before their other start of battle abilities get to go off. Actually would have been quite good here against this jellyfish, but I think we're going to lose because this boar is just going to become massive and knock out the retriever. Yeah. At least that gives us an extra round to see the Hyena actually do something. So just buy, sell the Olm, and then we'll stat up a bit more with the zebras. And basically we're just hoping that the Hyena swapping the stats while and then the skunk being able to gain tons of health from the gargoyle is going to be enough for us to sweep their squad. But a lot of the times, just having one pet like that isn't good enough, which is also why we've got the Rockhopper. But it is good enough in this scenario. But yeah, having the really, if you're going to go for a team like this, you probably need multiple skunks. I was definitely finding that Kraken just wasn't cutting it. But I'm sure I've done multiple videos in the past with Hyena and multiple skunks, so I wanted this more to focus on the gargoyle giving tons of health, which unfortunately it doesn't get to do here because because it gets sniped before it gets the chance to receive any mana, although we still scrape a draw. I actually think today there's some changes on the test server which would mean that gargoyle will actually still pass some health even if it gets knocked out, so looking forward to that. Of course, everything on the test server is preliminary, so there's no guarantee it will make it. But this is a pretty nice round where the level 3 hatching chick gets reduced to 1 attack, So we're going to get to see the skunk and the hatching chick attack each other quite a few times. Actually, amazing really that that's still almost a tie. They only had 4 pets as well. So we'll just look for leveling up the rockhopper. Don't get it. Another reason I guess that Hyena is a bit of a weird unit is that, it works well at level 1, but it's much more of a detriment at level 2, and you lose the stat swap ability. As we actually face a really crazy team here. I would have loved to have seen that team actually work. That probably was harder to get going than this team is. So yeah, well done to that player. And then here we're just quickly going to look at some other runs that just didn't pan out the way I wanted them to. Another concept you can use with Hyena is using Farmer Dog in order to even out the stats, because it's always going to, buff the lowest stat. But generally, when I ended up going for runs like that, it just degenerated into games like this, where everything just became 50-50, and the Hyena doesn't really do anything. But this is funny, where I've sold the Farmer Dog, and then I bought a base stats Cuttlefish, which then results in me winning on turn 18. But yeah, kind of unsatisfying there, where it's just a bunch of big stats. Same deal on this one. We've got 3 50-50s. We completely mess up the order on this team. Bakunawa does give us some sleepy, but again, we use Cuttlefish to put ink on the back units, and I think that was actually the level 3 Hyena achievement, which is crazy to think I don't have it already, given how long it's been out. Alright, next game, and we're going to look at a different unit that is constantly requested in the comments, and that is Panther. So it's not surprising really when you think about it, because every time there's a new perk added to the game, I suppose a lot of players' first thought is, how do I use this with Panther? Which is fair enough. Panther is definitely one of the most versatile units for customs. As we actually face someone with the very fancy crown hat for, I don't know if that was for winning a weekly brawl or for winning a tournament or something, but yeah, kudos to them. So this particular game, I can't remember if this was an exact suggestion that someone had made in the comments or not, but someone did want to see the attack reduction pets with Panther, which I guess is fair enough. It's essentially similar to what you're trying to do with Hyena, where you're reducing their health and then swapping the stats over so that they have very low attack. Well, now you can just do that directly by using Cardinalfish, which I've already done a video of. I'll link that in the description. But you can also use Humphead Wrasse. And so I wanted to have a team which was mostly Humphead Wrasse with Churros again. And I really wanted to try and get a clip of an opposing leopard being reduced down to virtually no attack and then sniping for basically no damage. But of course, as soon as I was trying to do that, the leopard teams all vanished off the face of the earth. I'm pretty sure I don't face any at all in this particular game, but I guess we'll find out soon enough. So because Humphead Wrasse is a tier 4, I decided to go for Praying Mantis for a bit of a change. Yeah, one of those units I just don't really use very often anymore, but when you're relying on units that aren't necessarily the best, like Wrasse, one of the best ways you can go about getting them onto your squad is by transforming a Mantis. So we've got the pack stocked up with both Fountain of Youth, or Water of Youth rather, what's the other one? Chickpea, and then also Competo, or maybe Competo wasn't in. I guess we don't want the Mantis tier to change, it has to be a tier 4. But I was prepared to have to play a lot of games of this because, when you're trying to hit that 1 in 9 transformation, you better be prepared to run the same team a bunch of times. So briefly thought about Amargasaurus there. I suppose actually there is also Proboscis Monkey now, which allows you to transform units. I assume that would still work if the Mantis knocked it out, but I didn't actually try it. I guess since it's start of turn as well, you would think it would work, because if you have 2 Mantis, they definitely both trigger. And here's actually a team that has Humphead Wrasse on their side, and we're going to lose to them. just barely, but I guess we were greeding quite hard. And I haven't even found any of the other hump heads because we really want to have more than one. And it is turn 10 already. Maybe I'm going to get one fairly soon. This is of course recorded before the update, so some of the bug fixes and so on won't have been applied in this video. Here's Wombat going for something amusing with the new hooded seal. I've seen quite a few people playing that unit, as we do finally find the Panther. So we can feed it up a little bit so it's not quite so feeble. And then I want to find a snapping turtle or tar to put in the knockout zone and let the mantis give the Panther the permanent perk. Although we don't find anything here. Judging by some of the pets that are in this pack, I think this was kind of an atypical pack for me in terms of the stuff that I actually generally take in customs. But sometimes it's nice to give yourself a break. As we actually face Hooded Seal twice in a row was that. So here we go, we get the first Wrasse. Definitely just sell Winter Spirit and then go for level 2 Wrasse immediately. There is a chickpea there as well, I should definitely freeze that. Another problem, of course, going for runs like this, when you go for Mantis and it gets to 50-50 so quickly, it does sometimes make it difficult to actually get the recording you want because you're just winning too quickly. So I think, am I going to greed for another turn here? Or maybe we're just going to save the chickpea. Yeah, there's the snapping turtle. Maybe I could have bought sold the zebra, but it doesn't really matter too much. With the 50-50 mantis, it carries us quite hard, I think, probably for a couple more turns yet. And also being able to one-shot straight through equipment like this. This team had a lot of high-powered equipment, but we still just knocked out their first 4 units with just our mantis. So here's another Wrasse, and definitely chickpea, and look at this. 1 game played, and we immediately get the correct transformation. So huge bonus there, because I was really expecting to have to play this for hours to get the setup I wanted. It's refreshing to have good transform luck for a change. So now we've got 3 of these units, and if you imagine a team like this with 3 skunks, how devastating it would be, you realise quite quickly how much weaker Wrasse is in comparison. Reducing attack is often not very useful against quite a range of teams. Teams like that one there, it didn't really matter too much that we took their attack away. It's much more powerful reducing health. Now, at the start of the test phase, Wrasse was the exact opposite of skunk, so it was possible to take units down to 1 attack. I think, though, in general, it's not great for it to be easy to reduce opposing pets to 1 attack. You can, of course, do it with a Hyena setup like we had in the previous run. But it does result in battles that can go on for quite a long time. So I'm not sure how exactly I would change Wrasse to make it a bit stronger, a bit less underwhelming, especially against teams where they don't really care too much about attack. Maybe it could reduce attack and health at the same time, or maybe it could spread the attack reduction across multiple units instead of always targeting the highest. I don't know. And actually, this is quite a crazy round when you realise just how strong Sawfish is in comparison to Wrasse. We just get absolutely demolished by this level 3 Sawfish when we had triple level 2 Wrasse. I guess you could argue my team isn't synergistic enough, but yeah, still I think pretty illustrative. So yeah, here's the churros. I do want to find as many of them as possible, but I think I'm going to run out of time to do so. Behemoth with coconut, and I think it's going to get reduced down enough so that the Panther gets to attack twice. Perfect example of a team where Wrasse can be strong, but again we needed triple Wrasse there to actually make a significant difference against that team that was reactivating the coconut from Real Velo. So it doesn't look like I'm going to get what I wanted there. I guess I was just rolling for churros. Again, this was because I was targeting leopard and just not finding any leopards at all. Now here is a crazy team on turn 18. I don't know how this team is still alive on turn 18, but they've got level 3 cuckoo with double level 3 flycatcher. So I felt pretty bad winning this round. Of course, it doesn't actually affect the other person's game, but it would have been nice to see the Panther getting to demolish a big scaling team on that last turn, instead of probably the one meme build that's still alive on turn 18.